Wake Up in Paradise, Chapter 14, Truth Will Out. Anne knew Man was in the back gathering herbs from her garden when Ryland dropped her off the next morning. Man always picked fresh vegetables and herbs before the heat could reach the horizon. She wanted to make her apologies before leaving for the hotel. "Good morning, Man," she greeted the bent figure. "I came to tell you I am home now, and I am sorry that I didn't think to call and let you know that I was having dinner with the Delacroix family." Anne cast her eyes at her feet, feeling suddenly very guilty. Basilia Cheval straightened to a standing position and rested her eyes impassively on the girl in front of her. The woman continued to stare at Anne without comment. Anne did not intend to deceive Man, who was not at all supportive of her relationship with the Delacroix family. She had learned that in the short time she had been with the family that no one ever successfully deceived Man. "He asked me to come and I did. I didn't mean to worry you none," she added contritely. "Worried none. I see good heart to come along. Broken stem we bind. Soon stand, O men, done." The woman spoke in her wise oracle tone she used to get her messages across. Paida claimed it was her mother's way of getting her own way. Then the woman laughed her own mirthful sound that always made Anne think that she knew happy secrets that no one else knew. "You knew where I was," Anne countered, relieved she was not in the doghouse. She loved this dear woman too much to want to cause her any hurt. "'Tis heart sees," the man agreed, placing her hand over her own heart. "None of us can keep anything from you," Anne accused her. The man gave Anne a twinkling look and held up her forefinger, palm facing toward Anne. "None forget truth," she reminded sternly. "I'm going to work now," Anne announced formally as my man turned back to her gardening. That night it was hard for Anne to get to sleep. When she finally did, it was a fitful sleep. The troubled young woman knew the problem was not because she was laying beside Paida and not Ryland. She had been plagued by the events of the previous evening throughout the day. What should have been the most wonderful day in her life was not. All her dreams were coming true. Ryland loved her. He wanted to marry her. He had as much asked her. Everything was coming down to the day when he would formally do just that. Anne knew that she could not wait any longer. She had to tell Ryland the truth. And that realization was what made sleeping virtually impossible. In the stillness of the pre-dawn, Anne crept out on the porch. She curled her sleep-deprived limbs into the largest of the porch rocking chairs. As the first rays of light appeared, she watched the shimmering color come and spread across the horizon with awe. The beauty of the day, just beginning, never failed to produce in her heart. Nevertheless, this morning she found no comfort for her troubled soul because of what she must do before the sun set. The time for truth had come. At the end of her shift, Anne dressed with care in the locker room. Today she wanted to look her very best. This would be the first time she had visited Ryland's office. After much debate, she had decided that it was the best place to confess her sins or crimes to put the right word on the deed. Upon hearing of Anne's decision, Peeta offered to accompany her. Then, after declining the island girl's help, Anne waved confidently to her friend from the cab window. Lacking the courage to call ahead of her visit to the consulate, she sent a prayer heavenward that Ryland would be in his office. She did not want to have to wait and give herself time to back out of her decision. Today was to be the day that Anne would honor the urging of the Cheval family. Although the young woman was exhausted from lack of sleep and emotionally ready to collapse, she was determined to finally tell the man she loved the truth. Please, God, let me get through this and let Ryland take it okay, she prayed fervently during the short ride. Nevertheless, deep down in her heart, she did not have any faith that her prayer would be answered. Darling, Ryland greeted Anne warmly as she entered his office. What brings you into the city today? He carefully closed the door behind her and reached out to take her in his arms. Anne stepped away from the embrace. Is something amiss? He said in concern, with a frown creasing his forehead. I have to talk to you, Anne replied, in a dry voice that she did not recognize as her own. You sound serious, he said. Yes, she acknowledged. Facing the moment of truth, and the courage that Anne had braced herself with deserted her. Her knees began to shake, and the air conditioning suddenly seemed very cold on her hot skin. She backed up against the chair that was stationed beside the large, ornate desk and sat down heavily. I was thinking about what all we said last night, and I want y'all to know, before I say anything else, that nothing makes me prouder than your loving me. But I ain't fit to be your wife, Anne began. She knew that her words were crudely stated. Still, she had gotten it out. Why do you believe you're unsuitable to be my wife? Ryland inquired solemnly, raising Anne's chin to peer directly into her troubled eyes. I thought we were past all that nonsense about our families. We don't live in a feudal society any longer, darling. We are a modern democracy. I am a civilian just like any other citizen on this island, an appointed official paid a wage. I can choose anyone I want to be my wife. Smiling, Ryland leaned in to kiss Anne. I choose you. I can't be your wife because I'm a criminal, Anne answered with quiet resolve. She pulled away from Ryland's attempt to kiss her. You don't even remotely have any criminal tendencies, he scoffed, obviously not taking her statement seriously. I'm in your country illegally, she stated bluntly. That's preposterous, Ryland argued. I'm not Angelina Pierce, she persisted. Then who are you? He asked, becoming still, his voice ominously quiet. I don't know, Anne answered. She turned from unwilling to witness the confused emotions that were colliding with each other in the eyes of the man she loved. Nor did she wish him to witness the tears that were forming in her own. That's absurd, and you know it, Ryland replied, with his voice raised slightly in volume and in irritation. It's the truth, Ryland, I swear it, Anne insisted in a solemn voice. She gazed resolutely into his eyes, steeling herself not to waver, and watched as he assimilated the fact that she was serious. His distress brought the tears brimming to Anne's eyes, threatening to overflow. She brushed at them with her hands. "Correct me if I am wrong. You told me that you are Angelina Ann Pierce, daughter of Carmelita Dupree and Ronald Pierce, granddaughter of Henry and Sorange Dupree, niece of Basilia Dupree and Armand Cheval," Ryland responded in a tone that sounded like the government official that he in fact was. "How did you know all that?" Anne asked in surprise. "My mother looked into it," he said. "You investigated me?" she asked in surprise. "The Cheval family, yes," Ryland answered. "You seemed concerned for your uncle's honor. That appears to have no relevance now," he added sarcastically, as he moved away from the chair Anne was seated in. "Let me explain, please," Anne pleaded tearfully. The room became so quiet that Anne turned to see where Ryland had gone. She found that he was standing behind her, his hands kneading his temples, his closed lids hiding his eyes. "Please, Ryland," she repeated hoarsely. "By all means," he responded, after hesitating. He seated himself partially on the corner of his desk without looking in Anne's direction. "Have your say." "I don't remember anything at all before I woke up, after the hurricane," Anne began, staring at the love of her life, the man of her dreams, the keeper of her heart. She willed him with an intensity that was painful to look at her, to forgive her for the deception she had perpetrated on him. "At the hotel where I work now. The one last September," she added, trying to prompt a response from him. Ryland refused to look up, riveting his gaze instead on his brilliantly polished shoe that swung in a deceptively slow pattern against the desk. "Almost nothing," Anne amended, and then at Ryland's continued lack of response she became agitated. "Please promise me that Peta's family will not get into any trouble on my account. They only tried to help me." "Please," she repeated. "They didn't do anything wrong. It was because I asked them to let me stay with them until I could remember. They're good people. They didn't mean to do wrong. Promise me that you won't arrest them. Please, Ryland," she begged. "I can't promise anything, Anne," Ryland answered. He directed a look at the distraught young woman, revealing nothing about his thoughts. Then he rose and went to the window and gazed out, with his back to Anne and his hands shoved into his trouser pockets. "I can't even call you Anne, can I?" he continued accusingly. "Was every word you said to me a lie? Every moment a farce?" No, it wasn't like that. I told you all the truth. I know. I just don't know who I am. All the rest is true," she whimpered pitiably. "Who are you? That's the whole point, isn't it? You could be a married woman with a family worried mad about you. They may think you dead all these months. Did you ever think of that? You may have left children without a mother to care for them," he lashed out. "Wouldn't I know if I had a family? I love children, I do. I know I would miss them in my heart," she cried out. It was true that caring for Covey had been very natural to her. I don't think one person misses me. I don't. Nobody come looking for me. You're wrong about that, she argued defensively. Am I? Well, there are endless possibilities less attractive, he responded bitterly. Like a fugitive, she suggested, endeavoring to read the man's thoughts. Turning to the woman that mere hours before he held in his arms and declared an undying love for, Ryland heaved a choked sound. It was as if he had been holding his breath and could no longer do so. The forlorn sound broke Anne's heart to hear it. I will do what I can to clear this up, he pronounced wearily. I must warn you that I cannot make any promises until I hear the whole of it, and certainly no one will be prosecuted until we see if an offense has been committed. Thank you, Anne whispered. Don't thank me yet, Ryland warned. Start from the beginning. I want to hear the entire story. Believing that at last she would be able to reclaim Ryland's respect and love, Anne focused her thoughts away from the man in front of her. She searched in her memory for that first morning when she woke up in the hotel dining room and met Peta. When I woke up, she began, I was in the hotel dining room with all of the others that were there because of the storm, and they were asleep all over the place. I thought I was the only one awake, but then Peta came and asked if I needed help. My head was wrapped up and hurt awful, she interjected. I was skinned up and my clothes were all muddy. I hurt all over, but I couldn't remember how I got hurt. Well, Anne continued, taking a deep breath that came out in a shaky sob. Peta, but I didn't know her name then. She took me to the bathroom and then we talked, and she told me how they brought me in, but I still couldn't remember anything except strange bits, like a real bad dream. Did a doctor treat you? Ryland asked, giving Anne his undivided attention. Yes, Peta told me they did, that I had maybe a concussion because of the bad cut on my head, but I don't remember any of that either, she answered. Where was the wound? He inquired, as if it was an important piece of information. Here, Anne responded, pointing to the upper side of her head, right behind her ear. They did a good job. It healed up all by its own. You sought no further medical attention, he persisted. No, Peta and her family were leaving, and I wanted to go with them. So I didn't wait for the doctors, Anne explained. It was early and everybody was asleep. They was all so worn out. Some had been up all night. Peta told me she only slept a couple hours, and they all wanted to go and see if there was bad damage to their home. Anne, hearing the name come from Ryland's mouth, made the false Anne Pierce flinch. She was sure that he was unaware that he had just said that it was not hers to use anymore. Habit, she supposed. After all, she had almost come to believe that she really was Anne Pierce. Why in the name of God didn't you ask someone for help? We have an embassy for this kind of thing. At the very least, you should have had treatment for your injuries. They could have been potentially serious. Ryland reprimanded Anne sharply. I cannot understand why your friends were not insistent upon your seeking professional help. Did you try to discover who you were? He added. I wasn't sick or anything, Anne insisted. After the first few days, I felt fine. And I did try a little at first. I just thought I would remember on my own who I was and where I lived, and then I'd go home. Then why perpetuate the elaborate charade? The tone of his voice and the expression on his face told her all that she needed to know. You think I'm lying, she said. Ryland did not answer. Anne crossed the room and sat down stiffly in a chair that was situated just inside of the door and said resignedly, anything I say won't convince you what I'm saying is true, or answer why I did what I did if you all don't want to believe me. So I won't waste any more of your time trying. I did wrong, I know that. I don't care if you jail me or kick me out of y'all's country. I'm ready to take my punishment without whining about it. No one is going to jail. That's nonsense talk, Ryland said. He took Anne's tightly clasped hands in his and pulled her to her feet. Frankly, I am at a loss at what to believe. If what you have told me is true, I will find out who you are. Is there anything else that you have not told me that I should know? Now is the time to speak up, he commanded sternly. At the negative nod, he opened the door for Anne. Call me if you think of anything further, he said. What if you can't find out anything? Anne asked, reluctant to leave. We have extensive resources at our command. Tracking lost persons and investigating undesirables is what we do best. This could have all been resolved easily had you told me the truth in the beginning, he added curtly. As it is, it should not take more than a few days. My office will contact you. It was such a cold dismissal. Anne felt as if she had been slapped in the face. Ryland's words left her with a sinking sensation in the pit of her stomach. Nothing was going to come out all right. She could feel it in her bones. Her heart felt as if it lay in 1,000 tiny pieces at the feet of the man she loved. One more thing, Ryland called after her. You'll have to end your employment immediately. Anne nodded, walking as rapidly as she could to escape those accusing blue eyes that followed her.